Hey guys, so welcome to the first cooking video I've ever made. So what I'm going to be making today is pork carnitas. These, I believe, are the best pork carnitas I've ever had, and the cool thing about it is I'm going to be using the Instant Pot to make them. It's a little bit of a process and there's quite a few ingredients, but I promise once you get it down, you're going to be wanting to make these all the time. Plus, these carnitas, they're not just good for tacos. You can put them in anything. I've done quesadillas, breakfast, all sorts of things. So let's get to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is what they call mise en place, which is pretty much just getting everything prepared, which I've kind of already done by laying out all my ingredients. The next step is going to be chopping my vegetables. I'm going to chop a whole onion and two jalapenos. Two jalapenos because I like it to be a little extra spicy. So I will get that started and I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, so I got my vegetables chopped. A really good tip is anytime you chop a jalapeno, when you're done, wash your hands with your dish soap. The dish soap will actually remove the oils from the jalapeno off your hands, getting that spice off of it, so when you touch things later, it's not gonna burn. So the next step I'm gonna move on to is getting the meat prepared. The first step we gotta do when preparing the meat is I got my skillet out and I got it pretty high heat and I added some olive oil and I'm letting that heat up. So I got the meat out of the package. One thing I'm gonna do is kind of trim some of this excess fat off of the back, and then we're gonna start browning. My skillet is nice and hot. I can see it smoking. I'm just kind of spreading that olive oil around. So I'm gonna go ahead and transfer the meat into it to get it browning. Okay, so I got this side browning. What I'm gonna do is just add a little bit of olive oil to the top of the meat, just to make sure we have a little bit of sear. Kind of rub that in a little bit. And I'm gonna go ahead and flip it because that side's probably pretty done. Yep, so that's what we want to see. You see that nice good brown? That's perfect. We don't want to brown it too much, just enough to kind of create a seal. So once this other side is done, I'm going to go ahead and transfer it back to my cutting board. Okay, so I got the meat back on the cutting board. It looks really good. That's perfectly browned. So while that's cooling down, I'm going to start making my wet rub. This recipe actually calls for a wet rub, so that's what I'm going to start putting together right now. Start the wet rub. I got my mixing bowl, and the first thing, it needs 3 tablespoons of oil. By the way, are these not the most awesome measuring spoons ever? So 3 tablespoons of oil, 2 tablespoons of tomato paste, 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of ground cumin, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano. Next thing is 2 teaspoons of salt, but I like to use this pink Himalayan salt, and it's a grinder, so I'm just gonna kind of eyeball 2 teaspoons. So next we're gonna do 1 teaspoon each of chili powder, garlic powder, and onion powder. So next we're gonna do 1/2 teaspoon of paprika and 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, but I'm just gonna kind of eyeball that. 1/2 teaspoon really isn't very much. So we got the paprika, and I'm gonna do some fresh ground pepper. So the last ingredient for the wet rub is the chipotle chili pepper. It calls for 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon. I'm gonna do a whole teaspoon for mine. So all ingredients added, I'm just gonna start whisking all this up, get it to a nice consistency, and it smells amazing. And you can see it's kind of the consistency of a thick mud. Gonna get it nice and mixed up. Once this is all mixed up, we're gonna start rubbing it onto our pork shoulder. Okay, so we have the wet rub down. I'm gonna just rub it all over and really get it caked in there good. Get it in all the creases, get a really good coat on it. Okay, so we have our pork in the Instant Pot, I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of orange juice. I'm gonna squeeze an entire lime into it. That was 1/2. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other half as well. It calls for a teaspoon of liquid smoke. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that in there. Kind of drizzle it all over as much as you can. And 2 bay leaves. I'm gonna try to pick out the best ones I have here. So I'm gonna kind of put these down into the liquid. So I'm gonna put them kind of on the sides. I'm gonna go ahead and just throw 1 extra in there. Perfect. Okay, last thing we have to do is just add our onions and jalapenos that we chopped earlier. So I'm just gonna take those and dump them right on top. So when it's cooking, all that onion will drizzle down. Same with the jalapenos. I'm just gonna put them right on top. And then we will begin the cooking process. Okay guys, so I have everything in the Instant Pot and it's ready to start cooking. What I'm gonna do is cook it on a manual setting. I'm gonna do a high temperature, the highest it'll go, and I'm gonna do it for 65 minutes. So I will see you when it gets finished. All right, so it finally finished. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pick these bay leaves out first, just because we don't want that in the mix. You don't really want to eat those. And I'm going to pull it out, transfer it to my cutting board, and then start shredding it up. All right, I got it out. Look how beautiful it is. So I have these nifty tools I bought, and they're literally just for shredding. So I'm just gonna start shredding it up. It is all shredded up. One thing I've been doing as I've been shredding is I've been putting the shredded meat back into the Instant Pot. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish putting all of the shredded meat back in. So what that's gonna do is really soak up all the juices. Every little piece of meat is gonna get some of that juice. So what I'll do is just take it, kind of really get it all covered. Get it all soaked up, and I'm gonna transfer it to a baking sheet. While I was shredding it, I preheated the oven to 450 because we're actually gonna bake this for a while. So I got it all out of the Instant Pot and I got it on my baking sheet here. I spread it out evenly. So I'm gonna throw it in the oven. It's at 450. I'm gonna let it cook for about 20 minutes. Here in about 20 minutes, we'll come pull it out and go from there. We're almost done. I just pulled it out of the oven. The one last step I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna add some more of this juice that was left over in the pot. Just kind of sprinkle some on. Not too much, but just enough to get a little bit more of that flavor. Then I'm gonna stir it up a little bit. We're gonna move on to the last step, which is gonna be broiling the meat. So I spread around the meat. I'm gonna throw it in the broiler for about maybe 4 to 5 minutes and then pull it out and it'll be done. Okay, I just pulled it out of the broiler and it is done. You can see that there's some crispiness all over, some dark spots. That's exactly what we're looking for. It is time to make some tacos. All right, we're done. Took about 2 hours to do. You know, the meat is done, and so whatever you want to do with it, it's up to you. I think we're gonna do tacos tonight, so we made some corn tortillas. I made some chipotle sour cream. I'm just gonna put some on my tortilla, grab some meat, and I'm just gonna do a little bit of cheese on mine. Pretty simple, but all that flavor is gonna come from the meat. So, hope you enjoyed.